In Australia and other parts of the Western world, so-called multiculturalism is seen as a virtue and something to be celebrated. For example, former Prime Minister Julia Gillard said in 2012, noting this is taken directly from a transcript from the Department of the Prime Minister and Cabinet titled Australian Multicultural Council Lecture. On migration, she said, "That's what migration is, an act of nation building, and multiculturalism is how we make it work. True multiculturalism includes, not divides. In the end, multiculturalism amounts to a civic virtue since it provides us with a way to share the public space, a common ground of inclusion and belonging. Multiculturalism is an expression of progressive patriotism." It sounds more like a wish than a statement of fact. It's kind of like the people who say that the historical regimes that called themselves communist, like the Soviet Union, were not true examples of communism, and that true communism is actually the best system. In 2017, then Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull also spoke highly on multiculturalism. SBS reported, "United, strong, successful. PM releases statement on multiculturalism." Referring to the millions of immigrants that have come to Australia, he said, "They've added their own identity to the extraordinary experiment that is modern Australia." Our current PM, Anthony Albanese, has always praised multiculturalism. In 2022, SBS reported, "Great multicultural society. Anthony Albanese to be first Australian PM with non-Anglo-Celtic heritage." Note, he's of Italian and Irish descent. However, the BBC didn't see through that rhetoric, asking, "Australia election, why is Australia's parliament so white?" Yes, just like the ABC, the BBC likes to bring skin colour into everything. Based on recent events in the last few years, even the ABC is questioning the success of Australia's multiculturalism. They reported, "Australian multiculturalism is at a crossroads." In the same report, they proudly proclaim, "Multiculturalism remains one of the nation's greatest achievements," but immediately admit, "Yet today, social cohesion is under real strain." They also separately reported that the cracks are showing in what we tell ourselves about multiculturalism. SBS noted contradictory views, how Australians feel about migration and multiculturalism, where they state, "Almost 1 in 2 people believe there are too many migrants moving to Australia, even though the vast majority of Australians believe cultural diversity is a boon for the nation." So the consensus seems to be multiculturalism is good, too much immigration is bad. Of course, the catchphrase for modern-day multiculturalism is, I'm sure you know it, "Diversity is our strength." Just last month, the New Daily reported, "Australia's strength lies in its diversity." Earlier this year, the Department of Defence proudly proclaimed, "Navy a haven for strength in diversity." They give an example of leading seaman T. What's so diverse about this individual? They begin, "As a transgender woman leading seaman." I don't know where to begin with that sentence. But it's not too surprising. 2 years ago, the ABC reported, "Australian Defence Force captain's choice to wear female army uniform overhauls gender diverse policy." I don't know why they bother having male and female uniforms if soldiers can just wear what they want, but who am I to judge? So yes, diversity is our strength. There is no proof of this statement, but you just have to shut up and believe it. But occasionally, Australia's multicultural diversity is our strength project hits a few road bumps, and the latest example is on every leading news outlet across Australia, indeed the world. As reported by the ABC, 15 dead in Bondi terror attack. We already knew, but we weren't allowed to say it out loud until the ABC verified it, that the gunman had alleged links to Islamic State. I'm not going to name the scumbags who did this, but they were a father and son team who decided to fire indiscriminately into a beachside Jewish celebration. They targeted 10-year-old girls and 87-year-old men. The only thing they seemed to care about was that their victims were Jewish. The father was shot dead in an exchange of gunfire with police. He had a number of licensed firearms and was a member of a gun club. The son remains in hospital under police guard. I hope you can understand, but I don't want to say too much about these events at this time, as investigations are still ongoing and it's easy to get accused of incitement or whatever. All I will say is that a Jewish man that I have worked with in the past lives in that area. My family and I actually visited him last year, and my children went to that very park where people were shot and killed. Sadly, the country that he calls home is seemingly allowing anyone into Australia, even people who clearly show hatred towards other members of our community. Believe it or not, the ABC once questioned all of this. In 2011, they published an article titled, "All Cultures and Religions Are Not Created Equal." They basically argued that Australia's political, legal and cultural framework is overwhelmingly Western and Judeo-Christian, and concluded that some worldviews are preferable to others, and some religious and cultural practices are simply not compatible with Australian society. But don't forget, diversity is our strength. Actually, I would argue that unity is our strength, not diversity, but that's somehow slipped under the radar. Yes, we can have people of different cultural backgrounds living in the same country, as long as we're all united under the same banner, Australia. Pretending that we can all divide ourselves up into all these different social and ethnic groups who adamantly hate one another and then pretend that's going to work, well, it's not going to work. And that's what's playing out on our streets and, indeed, our beaches across the country. A multicultural society is clearly not naturally harmonious. It requires great effort from our leaders to convince us that everything is A-OK.